Great to be with you this afternoon. And today we begin a conversation about how to make America safe again. In the 20th century, the United States has defeated fascism, Nazism, and communism. Now a different threat challenges our world: radical Islamic terrorism.
I gotta be completely honest, it feels comforting for a presidential candidate to speak like that and name the enemy. Obama, Clinton, and certainly Justin Trudeau, for some reason, have this intellectual incapacity to address the biggest threat facing humanity today. This quote was, of course, from Trump's speech yesterday on national security and a plan to defeat the Islamic State. When Trump gives his policy speeches, he's at his best, and yesterday was no exception. So here are my 4 highlights from yesterday's speech, beginning with his military plan for ISIS.
My administration will aggressively pursue joint and coalition military operations to crush and destroy ISIS, international cooperation to cut off their funding, expanded intelligence sharing, and cyber warfare to disrupt and disable their propaganda and recruiting. Their recruiting is taking place right now, and they're setting records. It's got to be stopped.
And that's the basics. Trump also said that he would call an international conference in order to halt the spread of radical Islam. This will include partnering with U.S. ally Israel, the King of Jordan, and President El-Sisi of Egypt, both 2 important reform and leadership voices in the Muslim world. I can't stress enough how important these 2 men and their countries are in this battle. With the Gulf states unwilling to do a thing about ISIS and Iran seemingly enjoying the diminishing role of Sunni influence in the region, these are the 2 most important leaders within the Muslim world and this ongoing battle for reform. Second up, Trump talked about honor killings.
My administration will speak out against the oppression of women, gays, and people of different beliefs. Our administration will be a friend to all moderate Muslim reformers in the Middle East and will amplify their voices. This includes speaking out against the horrible practice of honor killings, where women are murdered by their relatives for dressing, marrying, or acting in a way that violates fundamentalist teachings. Over 1,000 Pakistani girls are estimated to be the victims of honor killings by their relatives each year. Recently, a prominent Pakistani social media star was strangled to death by her brother on the charge of dishonoring the family. In his confession, the brother took pride in the murder and said, "Girls are born to stay home and follow traditions." Shockingly, this is a practice that has reached our own shores. On such cases, and many cases have happened, but one involves an Iraqi immigrant who was sentenced to 34 years in jail for running over his own daughter, claiming she had been too westernized. To defeat Islamic terrorism, we must also speak out forcefully against a hateful ideology that provides the breeding ground for violence and terrorism to grow.
Honor killings are something Canadians know far too well from the murders of the Shafia girls in 2009. Mohammed Shafia killed his 3 daughters and first wife by locking them in a car and ramming it into the water at Kingston Mills, drowning all 4 of them. You know, as tough an issue as honor killings are to talk about, it's only Donald Trump that has the guts to discuss this and other extremist views that are sadly very prevalent in the Muslim world. Politicians and the media around the world seem to have a significant issue talking about these problems, as I think they fear being called Islamophobic. Third up, Trump unveiled a new screening process for all those immigrating to the US or visiting on visas.
The common thread linking the major Islamic terrorist attacks that have recently occurred on our soil, 9/11, the Fort Hood shooting, the Boston bombing, the San Bernardino attack, the Orlando attack, is that they have involved immigrants or the children of immigrants. Clearly, new screening procedures are needed. A review by the U.S. Senate Immigration Subcommittee has identified 380 foreign-born individuals charged with terrorism or terrorism-related offenses between 9/11 and 2014, and many more since then, and this year is a record for identification. It's gotten worse, far worse. We also know that ISIS recruits refugees after their entrance into the country, as we have seen with the Somali refugee population in Minnesota. Beyond terrorism, as we have also seen in France, foreign populations have brought their anti-Semitic attitudes with them. In Cologne, Germany, on New Year's Eve, we have seen the reports of sexual violence and assault, far greater than anybody knows. Pew polling shows that in many of the countries from which we draw large numbers of immigrants, extreme views about religion, such as the death penalty, and for those who are involved, the death penalty is very, very common if you don't have the faith that they demand you have. A Trump administration will establish a clear principle that will govern all decisions pertaining to immigration. And we will be tough. We should only admit into this country those who share our values and respect our people.
To me, this is a strong position that is needed to ensure the safety of the US and its citizens. But the media was already lining up to skewer Trump on the fact that he said he wanted to be extreme in his vetting. Just look at Andrew Coyne from the National Post joking about whether or not extreme vetting of immigrants means waterboarding them. You know where these accusations of racism and bigotry towards immigrants come from? Commentary in the media like that. People who think that it's okay to joke about a policy that could arguably be a step forward in the right direction when fighting radical Islam. And to suggest that Trump wants to waterboard all immigrants is frankly quite pathetic. Lastly, and what could be the most transformative policy announced yesterday, is the formation of a Radical Islam Commission.
That is why one of my first acts as president will be to establish a commission on radical Islam, which will include reformist voices in the Muslim community who will hopefully work with us. We want to build bridges and erase divisions. The goal of the commission will be to identify and explain to the American public the core convictions and beliefs of radical Islam, to identify the warning signs of radicalization, and to expose the networks in our society that support radicalization. This commission will be used to develop new protocols for local police officers, federal investigators, and immigration screeners.
This could be an incredible tool. We have seen to some extent that it is possible to de-radicalize people, as there is pretty good work being done in Britain right now by former jihadist turned reformer Maajid Nawaz and his Quilliam Foundation. I would also love to see leaders like Dr. Sunni Jasser, Raheel Raza, and maybe even Tariq Fatah used as reformist voices. What cannot be allowed to happen is for political correctness to reign and allow for members of groups like CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, or any other Muslim Brotherhood affiliated group to be part of this commission. This commission, if done correctly, could be the greatest weapon against radicalization in America and online the world has seen to date in this fight. But the media, well, they're too busy looking for a misspoken word or making jokes about waterboarding. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.